Hello, everybody, and welcome into another exciting edition of The Rundown. Number 4 this spring slate, myself, Jack Heckman, joining me here on the show, breaking down the good stuff in CSAA baseball and softball. We got a great week up ahead of us, Jack. We got some great games on the docket, and as well, some surprising results that we had from last week, also carrying over into early this week. Some games being played, some of them being pushed back a week. Mother Nature, of course, seems like, Jack, I jinxed it last week, so I'll take that one for the people.
Exciting out of conference schedules and games coming up. Those Saturday games where, we saw the new conference schedule. Should be some exciting matchups. And last week we had some surprises, some new teams at the top, especially in softball. Should be exciting.
Should be very exciting indeed. Before we get into scores, I want to say a big thank you as well going out to Dazos Digital, as well as Eagle Village and Denny's Muffler and Brakes for joining us here on the Rundown. Glad to have you on. You can find out more information as we go along in the shows about those businesses and what they can do to help you. Before we get into the scores to recap and games to watch, I sat down with Big Rapids head softball coach Dawn Thompson on this year's team and their season ahead. Now joining me here for an interview, I have Big Rapids head softball coach Dawn Thompson joining me. Dawn, thank you so much for the time, and thanks for chatting with us.
Brandon, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I know it's a very exciting time for you. Also, as the athletic director, wearing different hats, very busy with Mother Nature. We've talked about plenty of times on the show, but so far got a couple games in. Obviously, not the record that you probably guys wanted early on in the season, but just talk about where your team is and how the start of the season has been for you.
I've been really happy with how competitive we've been in every game. I know the record doesn't show that probably right now, but we're averaging 10 runs a game. So we're hitting the ball well. We just have to tighten up some things defensively, and our pitchers are continuing to grow. They're inexperienced, but they're getting better and better and being more consistent. So happy with the progress we're making thus far.
For sure. And you got some tough games ahead, obviously, with Montague in the non-conference slate. You have Reed City as well, the rivalry game coming in next week. What's the biggest emphasis for you and what the team's been really practicing with to try to improve over these next couple games?
We are working a lot on our communication and defense. Defense and pitching wins championships. And those are two areas that we're focusing on, and the kids are really working hard at it. We need reps, and that's been really hard, obviously, for every team. The weather has not been good. So, trying to replicate that in a gym is not easy. So the more we can get outside in practice, I think the more you'll see us improve in those areas.
For sure. Obviously, that is something that can only be done in certain environments. So hopefully we can see all the teams improve there. Looking at last year, 29 wins, obviously fantastic season, conference championship winning season. Looking at this year's team, a lot younger, a little bit less experience. What's been the biggest emphasis for you with this team, really trying to put the hammer down on this can be still a great season, despite obviously challenges with the lack of obviously top end talent that you had last year, including Division I level talent, and how you guys identify yourselves as winners coming this year?
Our biggest thing is realizing that we have a target on our back. And that's a credit to the kids in this program over the past several years and the work they've put in. And so I know these kids that we have right now are taking that to heart. Our goal is to come to practice each day, work as hard as we can. We're putting in extra time after practice, some of our individuals. And our biggest stress has been the more we communicate, the better we'll be. And so getting kids to step outside that comfort zone who haven't had to do that because you had the likes of, Marissa Warren last year, Kaylin Knoop, Ferris Carroll, Zoe Taylor, phenomenal ball players, but they took the majority of those roles. So now you're teaching kids to do that. And again, I can't be more happy with the improvement we've made just in the few weeks that we've been able to get outside.
Absolutely. And just talk about some of the standouts that many of the fans can follow here this year and some of those key motored players that can really help you guys string along a good season.
Jalen Schuberg has stepped up for us as sophomore. She starts in left field, but she's now our leadoff hitter. Compared to last year, she was in the 9-hole. She's leading us a hitting with over a 400 mark and 600 on base percentage. So, we're really excited about her progress. You also have seniors, Ava Childers and Brooklyn Durga, both all conference players last year, coming up and making some big, improvements in their game, but also becoming leaders for us, being more vocal. Both are hitting the ball very well. And you look at Aaliyah Couch, who's a freshman, and her confidence is growing. She's playing a tough spot at shortstop. And so those kids right now, along with, some of our returners, Maria Jinga, Trinity Rayburn, have done some big things. And then you flip to the mound, and our kids were inexperienced, like you talked about at the beginning. But I think Maya Curtis and Lizzie Zimmerman and Elena Fattori are making huge strides, and will continue to go as they go.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, thank you so much for joining us. Last question for a lot of fans that are going to be coming out here later in the spring when the weather, of course, gets warmer. What's something that they can expect from this year's team and the expectations and goals that you have for this group?
You can expect kids that work hard. They're going to hustle on and off the field. They're going to communicate with each other. They're going to improve every game. And, the goal is always the same. We start off with wanting to win a league title. That's no different this year. I think our league is pretty wide open. We've got a slower start than what we wanted, but at the same time, we haven't played some of the teams that are at that top, and we'll get to see everybody again. So, that's our number one goal. We want to four-peat, and so the kids are going to work hard towards that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Coach, and good luck the rest next couple of weeks and see some wins for the Cardinals.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks, Brandon.
Big thanks to Coach Thompson for joining us here on the Rundown. Much different team than we were talking about last year, Jack, and we'll obviously get to them later on here. We will start, of course, with CSAA-Red baseball, but before we do that, if you want a job that helps you maximize your potential for a great purpose, find out more where potential soars, eaglevillage.org, a proud sponsor of the Rundown. Let's get into CSAA-Red baseball, the big notable one. Let's start right off of the shoot, Jack. I mean, Grant, Newaygo, this was a rivalry game. This was the games that we were looking out for. And boy, was it something. Not the games Newaygo wanted to play. Grant was able to win a lot of errors for that line defense. There was just not a great showing from Newaygo. They looked to bounce back. Big Rapids, of course, completing the season sweep, as we mentioned there, against Chip Hills. And a lot of games postponed, so we're going to see a lot of these teams actually playing today as we're recording this. We'll be covering them more next week. But that first game, that notable game, the only one really to talk about that many people are caring about, Newaygo and Grant, it was just an absolute blunder for the Lions, and Grant was right there to pounce.
Did it perfectly. 9 errors for Newaygo, just a struggle bus for them. Grant got out hot, a 20-6 win, 5 innings in the first game, and then it was a little closer in the second game, 3-2. But Grant's pitching's been amazing this season. That's something you're really going to look at the rest of the season. They're going to be great all season long. They had 10 hits offensively too in game 2, so it's not like they didn't get the bats going. They got hits. They just couldn't put the amount of runs on the board. Big Rapids and Chip Hills, hard to beat a team 3 times. Chip Hills didn't have any errors in the first 2 games, and then in game 3 they had 5 errors. That was really rough. Gilchek, a Kazoo Valley commit, had 3 walks on 5 plate appearances. He's walked 9 times so far this season. They played 7 games. And if you remember at the beginning of the season, he had the basketball injury. He didn't play, 3 full plate appearances in those first couple games against Traverse City Central. He got a couple there, but 9 walks this season. He's looked really good. Tri-County and Grant last Wednesday. Grant won that one. They took the series. We saw that pretty shocking loss last week on Monday that Tri-County was able to get their first win of the season, and right now it's their second win of the season. They sit at 4th place in the conference standings. Newaygo and Reed City. Newaygo won. They completed the series sweep. 6 errors from Reed City. It's something that if you can play clean baseball, it gives you a huge advantage. And there's a lot of teams right now not playing clean baseball. And only 2 hits from Reed City. We know they have the athletes. We know they can do it. But it's just if they can put it together. And we're only 3-4 weeks in. There's, some big games coming up. Maybe this week, not so much. Some interesting out-of-conference games. But coming up May, there's a lot of teams that have a really tough May. Like Big Rapids, a really, really tough May schedule. They start May off with Beale City. That should be an interesting one. But 10 stolen bases from Newaygo. They're just taking the extra base. Reed City may be a little lazy out there as they're looking for their first conference win, 0-5, the only team in baseball to not record a win. Them and Chip Hills yet to record a conference win.
Looking to get some momentum indeed, and we mentioned Big Rapids falling in a heartbreaker to Oxford. They're going to have some tough games coming up on the schedules, Jack, you mentioned. Same over in the White as we take a look over there. Obviously, White Cloud and Chip Hills playing. That was a really entertaining first game, only ended up in a 1-run deficit. Chip Hills takes care of game 2. But especially notably here, looking at the standings right now for the CSAA-White with some of these games. I mean, right now, Central Malcolm's at the top. Molly Stanwood is a team that's right now sitting in second. Kent City is a team that's just looking to really, as you would say, get boots on the ground, get some wins under their belt, and see if they can move this season forward. But Moly Stanwood as well as Lakeview have played very competitive so far this year, as you could tell in recent games.
Definitely. Both teams played really good, but that Kent City, I mean, we saw their schedule. We didn't really talk about them that much because they didn't play a game. They played their first game on the 17th. They hadn't played since May 27th. I mean, you got time to work on things, but it's hard just not being able to get out there, especially with the weather not being that great. Probably weren't able to get on the field that much. But yeah, Central Montcalm rolling right along. They have the CM invite this weekend. That should be interesting couple matchups for them. Morley Stanwood rolling. They'll have Kent City and then Tri-County and out of former conference foe. Lakeview, they're going. Central Montcalm, they'll have 4 against Kent City next week. White Cloud, they have Mason County Eastern, Hesperia, and then they'll have Central Montcalm for 4. Kent City will have Morley Stanwood, Lakeview for 4. Yeah, definitely some interesting matchups. Central Montcalm simply just put it to Morley Stanwood last Wednesday, 16-0 win. White Cloud, Lakeview, they split the season series 2-2 apiece. That's definitely, I mean, they're tied for third right now. Couldn't even get any closer down there. It was pretty much whichever game you picked. The first game was all Lakeview. Second game, all White Cloud. Both teams were able to find the barrels. 36 batters to the plate in the first game for Lakeview. They had 12 hits. In the second game, all White Cloud. They got it done. Even the series 2 apiece, like I mentioned. Kent City, Morley Stanwood. Morley won both. Kent City, like you said, trying to get boots on the ground, just trying to get going a little bit. Struggling a little bit right now. But Kent City, they just gave up too many free bases. 11 walks. That was a really rough game for them. They got to get the pitching going and rolling quickly. They were also 5 for 13. I mean, there's just not a whole lot going right for them right now. But they have some matchups. They have Morley Stanwood. That's a team that's sitting at second place right now at the table. You know, you get a win there. You're still looking for your first conference win. The only team in the CSAA-White baseball to not have a conference win right now. Kent City should be able to get some things going if they can sneak by. Maybe take 2 for Morley Stanwood. Should be an interesting matchup if they can get it done. If their pitching really steps up, they should be able to have a chance at that Morley Stanwood game. We saw a lot of former conference matchups between Grant and Kent City. And then Kent City Tri-County. That was quite a few CSAA teams actually in that tournament there. There were 6 teams that went, and I believe 3 or 4 of them were CSAA teams. No CSAA teams matched up in that, though. But yeah, I mean, there's just some teams that got to get going. And I think Kent City right now, they kind of figured out that not playing a game for quite a few weeks is a definitely tough thing.
Tough thing to deal with indeed. As we take a look over now into softball, Grant is at the top of the table. We were looking at Reed City, Big Rapids, obviously the two that have been more times than not up in the table. Newaygo thrown in there as well, but Grant looks like the team with the offense right now, beating Big Rapids. That's massive for them moving forward. And you look especially at some of the games that we'll mention here later on, that some of these top teams will be playing each other. That we were projecting early on in the year. Newaygo takes care of Chip Hills, as well as Reed City gets their momentum back against Tri-County. And so those are some notable ones as well. But I think the big notable thing here, Jack, we're looking, Chip Hills is also being very sneaky right there at that 3 spot. But so far, I think Grant is the team to watch in this conference to this point.
8-1 right now, 5-1 in the conference, tied with Newaygo. They play each other. We're filming this on Wednesday, exactly a week from today, next week. That should be a pretty big one. But like you said, Big Rapids, Reed City, they're right now, Big Rapids is tied for third with Chip Hills. Reed City is in 5th place, 2-4 in the conference. Those are teams that we kind of predicted to be pretty good this season and, you know, running at the top. But, I mean, it's Grant and Newaygo, that rivalry taking over the old rivalry. Grant's just playing really, really good right now. Newaygo also playing pretty good. They're getting the bats going. Newaygo's hot with the bats right now. That's something to coming up. If they're able to sneak some by, they may be able to take a couple games from Grant next week. That's going to be a huge matchup next week, like I said. But, yeah, there's just at the top, to be honest, Grant taking both from Big Rapids. Big Rapids, a couple errors. They only had 2 hits in game 1 of that one. 5 errors in the second one, 9 errors in 2 games. I said it earlier. If you could play clean defense, you're sitting pretty for a long time there. Reed City just dominated Tri-County. Tri-County really struggling right now, 0-5-1, yet to get a conference win. Newaygo and Chip Hills. You said that Chip Hills has been sneaky, unable to get one here from Newaygo, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they're figuring it out. They played quite a few games. Them and their baseball team played a lot of double headers. Tough to do that. In softball, you don't really have a pitch limit, but in baseball, you see that more often. So you're seeing teams pitch the same girls repeatedly over and over. But yeah, it's just a shocking that Grant and Newaygo are at the top. There's not really, I mean, Big Rapids and Reed City, you said it 3 weeks ago, they weren't at the top. You'd shock a lot of people with that.
Absolutely. Shocking indeed. As we take now a look at the CSAA White. Right now, Kent City looking to get games in. They played North Muskegon. They got themselves 2 wins there against the Norsemen. I think especially Molly Stanwood had a challenge going up against Everett. Honestly, probably the team in the area coming into this year after last year's miraculous run. Obviously losing to the Wildcats, but still good competition to start the year. And as well, Lakeview looks like a team that's very much improved, and there might be one to watch here, Jack, that we're talking about a couple weeks down the road, just slowly teetering their way up the standings there in the CSA White tables.
Last week I said it's pretty open, but right now I think Morley Stanwood's got a clear run at that top. You mentioned Lakeview might be able to sneak a couple through. They lost by 3 runs in both games to Morley Stanwood. Who knows, in a couple weeks that could flip and we could have a season split where Lakeview would be able to take 2. But that Everett Morley Stanwood game, it's hard to compete with a team like Everett. An 11-2 loss for Morley Stanwood. That was their third game of the day, too, on last Saturday. Everett's just a completely, extremely hard team to play. They're 9-0 last year, Division III state champions. Everett had 16 hits. It's just hard for Morley Stanwood. They gave up too many bases. It was the worst pitching performance of the season, but their pitching's been great. And it's like I said, it's hard to be with a team like Everett. But earlier in the day, they had 1 win. They lost Meridian 6-5. They just Morley Stanwood just couldn't get it done there towards the end. It was a really, really well-matched game, pitched really well again. Morley Stanwood won the game before that against Charlevoix, 15-0 in 3 innings. Pitching stayed great, didn't allow a single hit. Bats came alive, more alive than they were before. But yeah, there was just 3 games in a day is hard to win all 3 of them. They went 1-2, but they definitely played some tougher teams like Everett and Meridian. Charlevoix, they were able to get it done. But yeah, Kent City starting to get a little warm too. 2-1 over North Muskegon, 5-2 in the second game. Both low scoring affairs. 14 strikeouts in game 1 from Kent City. That was really good. And then they got the bats going. We mentioned it in the baseball side. They haven't played since March 27th, but they're definitely starting to heat up. And you can see some of these teams. Morley Stanwood's got a pretty good lead on the division right now. They're playing really good. But you can see some of these teams, your Lakeviews, Kent Cities, Central Montcalms, those type of teams start to build some wins. And White Cloud's struggling right now, but if those teams can build some key wins here, they're going to start matching up against each other as we get into the thick of baseball and softball, this is. It's going to be tough for a team like Morley Stanwood to completely outrun a division like this. We said it's pretty wide open, but right now Morley Stanwood kind of taking the cake at the top.
Absolutely. Certainly a lot to be sorted out over the next couple weeks. Real quickly, before we get into the games of the week, if you're having car troubles, especially with your muffler and brakes, go on down and head to Denny's on Northland Drive, a proud sponsor of the Rundown. You can find more information for them on Facebook at Denny's Muffler and Brakes. Looking at some games of the week here, Jack, we'll keep it quick and we'll combine these here, looking at the red and white for baseball. Some notable games coming up, especially, obviously we'll get to our games of the week later on. I think a big one to look out for here later on. I think when you look at the teams and looking at where these standings go, based on where this is at, I think there's a lot of games this week on both the baseball and softball side that seem to be a little bit more chalk based on where we've been here through the first couple of the weeks. But nonetheless, this is going to be a season where a lot of teams are going to be tested early on, and you're still going to have to play good baseball and softball, especially on the baseball side here, for a lot of these top teams to try to sweep their way through.
We saw it early in the season with Grant and Tri-County. It's hard to beat a team 3 times. Tri-County got the winning game 2, and then going back to Big Rapids and Chip Hills, that was a game that went right down to the wire. Big Rapids won the first 2 at their place, going to Chip Hills last Wednesday. Only won by 1, but it's hard to beat a team 3 times, so it's an impressive win nonetheless. Like you said, this week's probably going to be a little more chalk. You have the Grant and Newaygo matchup. That's a little tougher one, but This week, Big Rapids, Tri-County, the games tonight, Wednesday, as we're filming this, and they'll have one tomorrow, I believe. And then you'll have Reed City, Big Rapids next week. It's a rivalry game. Anything can happen, but the way Reed City's playing right now, definitely struggling into this one. Reed City, Chip Hills, that's a game that could flip-flop the standings as neither one of those teams have gotten a conference win so far. Yeah, I mean, it's looking to go pretty chalk right now. Not a whole lot of big-time matchups this week.
For sure. And same on the softball side as we take a look at some of those games on your screen now in front of us. With the standings, obviously, very, very similar looking at a lot of these games. And I think especially some notable ones that you'll probably see, especially going into next week. Obviously, one of them will be potentially a game of the week, not to spoil it too early, but you mentioned the rivalry game of Reed City and Big Rapids. But also some other games as well. Some teams in tournament action, like the Coyotes, will be playing in then one of those tournaments later on. You got Central Montcalm playing in non-conference against Ithaca. You always got Chip Hills and Lakeview. So it'll be very interesting to see where these teams go for their non-conference here over the next couple weeks. As you mentioned, Jack, the pitching depth has certainly been something we've been keeping an eye on early on in the season. How do these teams pitch early on in the season, and how will that develop over on? Some of these staffs are starting to look pretty good, especially like some of those teams you highlighted in the white. But there's going to be some games here that a lot of top teams can get, but will they be able to execute and get W's?
Going to be tough. The way Morley Sandwood's pitching right now, they're just dominating teams, but you definitely have some sneaky matchups coming up. There's teams that may be able to get it done in these upcoming weeks that, like I said earlier, may be able to climb in the CSAA-White softball over Morley Sandwood. If you're able to build wins, get that momentum going. And the red division for softball, those are definitely, there's some good matchups coming up, but we said it for baseball. It's some chalk matchups this week. Grant and Newaygo at the top of the table. They're tied for first. They don't play for another week. That should be a pretty interesting matchup. That's definitely one to look out for in the upcoming weeks. But Big Rapids, or Reed City that is playing Grant, if they can stack a win, they may be able to flip it. But the way they're going right now, they're struggling quite a bit.
Still trying to get their momentum forward indeed. As we now have the final time before you go, we'll get you the games of the week for you to look on out for. And Jack, I'll let you have the honors for your baseball and softball game of the week here in the CSAA.
Well, I'm going to go with Traverse City St. Francis traveling down to Big Rapids. Should be a huge matchup. Big Rapids this week didn't get to play Monday, didn't get to play Tuesday. A couple injuries, had to cancel the goal late game, but they have Tri-County today and tomorrow. It's a big matchup. TC St. Francis right now, I think when I checked this morning on Prep Baseball Michigan, in their power rankings, they're 8th in Division III. That's a very tough team. It's a private school, too, so that's going to be a really tough matchup. And then for softball, I'm going to go to the CSAA-White. It's going to be Morley Stanwood, Central Montcalm. Morley Stanwood pitching amazing right now. They had those 3 games on Saturday. Should be a really interesting matchup. Central Montcalm may be able to sneak one out, but it's definitely one of those that's going to come down to if you're able to stack wins now and take over a team like Morley Stanwood, you may be able to have the division in front of you.
100%. Looking at my games of the week, I got them on my sticky note here in front of me. I'm going to take a baseball matchup that is very intriguing on paper. We'll see if it turns out this way. Tri-County going to Morley Stanwood. Look, these two teams both looking to see if they can build momentum. They both know how big of a game this is. Maybe not necessarily in their conference standings in respective divisions, but this is a very, very winnable game for both sides, it seems like on paper. They both were going to feel confident. Who comes out on top? Only we will wait to see. And then on the softball side, I got to be biased. I'm going to take the rivalry here. Big Rapids and Reed City. Look, both of these teams were coming in as top 2 probably in a lot of fan polls, right? Just based on what we saw last year. Boy, these teams are going to be fun to watch. Now we've kind of had the realization, right? We talked to Coach Thompson earlier. We obviously have seen Reed City kind of struggle in the year. They both understand these are different teams than a year ago. So this game is going to be much more entertaining in that aspect. And we're going to see what these teams are made of and can they pull themselves into that championship contention in the CSA. It should be very interesting indeed. Thanks to you guys for watching this episode here of The Rundown, or if you're listening live with us on BRN here this weekend on Saturday, we appreciate you. Big thanks to Dazos Digital. Target your target audience with the experts at DazosDigital.com. For more informational digital assets, audio, video streaming, the whole 9 yards, you can find out more at the website. And Jack, we're going to be hopefully talking about more games this week. Mother Nature threw us another curveball, as always she tends to do here this time of year. But it's going to be an exciting week of baseball and softball ahead.
Oh, some good matchups, some matchups that may be able to go chalk, but there's always room for an upset.
There always is indeed. March extends on all the way. There's no doubt. We love our upsets, and we can't wait to break them down for you. Be sure to subscribe Big Rapids Daily News on YouTube or get that preset down so you catch next week's episode here on The Rundown.